Hi there, Melissa Klein here again with Willem Dafoe, my boyfriend. No, he's not. Any rate, here he is playing Vincent van Gogh. Absolutely adore this photograph. First thing I'm noticing is sort of how the distance between the eyebrows and the eyelids, and just laying in the rough sketch. Also, the fact that the ear is up further, that I think I noted that before, but trying to get that like distance correct. And now I see that I've done it a little bit too much. Right now he's just looking like this sort of crazy thing from Mars Attacks, and I feel sorry because I really do admire this actor. And doesn't look anything like him. Like here I did all these warm-ups and I'm like, what the hell? But carrying on very bravely. Feeling pretty good about the hair, but at this moment he's looking kind of like an old woman. And oh yeah, and then here's where I notice I drew it. His eye needed to be further over to the side, and so I have to like kind of redraw everything. If I was working on paper, I would probably just scrap this and go again. So I guess this is a good example of like, even with all the best warm up, it doesn't always go the way you want it to, but just hang in there. And so I make these mistakes on purpose to show you. No, I don't make these mistakes on purpose. Just sharing with you my journey with this. And so, many of you have said like, "Hey, I have had to redraw that. And I get it. Me too." But I think it's so much better to redraw it than to just leave it, even though there is this temptation. So the fact that we're all doing that is a good thing because we're not accepting what I would call the mediocre, or we're not, we're like, okay, gotta try to get it more and more right. One of my favorite quotes of all time, and I think I've asked you guys this, guess who said this, which is this quote of, by a famous artist, was if people knew how hard I work, they would not be so impressed. And the person who said that was Michaelangelo. So I feel like, well, if he had to work, then I guess we all do. But I also want to stress that it's a fun, meaningful thing to do. That, even in all of this, that there's a certain, joy you can get out of it, even if it's like kind of a rough day. It kind of like one of my friends who's also a horse person said, even a bad day with horses is still a good day. And I feel like that about art. Like, even a bad day with art is still a good day. Right now, I'm adding, as you saw, I was putting around the background effect because I decided that really worked. Really, that's one of the things that makes this photograph look so good. And that to keep the texture down of the background, just let it be a black, kind of something something. And obviously I didn't make it solid black. I didn't feel the need to, but enough that there was not that much texture. And also I'm having the background kind of be wide enough around the face that it's not turning into an outline, which is important. And I use the background to skinny out his face because in my last video I noticed that I tend to make faces too wide because I have a round, wide face, and I tend to go for, I tend to make when I draw anybody, even somebody who looks nothing like me, I tend to do that. And I've also heard that that's something that a lot of artists do, that almost any portrait you can see that an artist has done will have some sort of vague resemblance to that artist. I'm not seeing it with somebody like, let's say, Eakins or John Singer Sargent. I don't see anything of either of those artists' faces in, let's say, some of their magnificent portraits of women. But that said, I do think, you do put something of yourself into it. And I think that's why doing portraits is really special. Because there is this element of the artist putting their energy into it in a way that's very intentional, like and looking at intention. Here I am intentionally doing his hair. Quite enjoy the hair because it's so like clearly defined, but it's a little bit tricky getting that curl at the end of the head, to be okay. And then the other thing I did with the shading of this is that a lot of times, and I'm not sure, I think because he has kind of a craggy face, I was doing a lot of cross hatching with it, more so than, let's say, doing the side of the pencil type shading. And so that's just something to think about, that you can kind of combine those things. I also like the energy that cross hatching brings to it, and I think that's a cool thing. Um, and you know, now I'm getting a little bit more subtle with things. I'm adding highlights onto the hair. I'm also using the eraser tool to kind of take away and create more texture in the face. And I'm thinking a lot about his wrinkles. And which he be now at this point too, I think he looks a little bit like Christopher Walken. And I guess these two guys do have a vague resemblance to each other. Not quite. And I want to get like the intensity of the eyes. One of the things I noticed, and I don't think I quite have, is the eyes are on the same plane, but the eyebrows go up. You know, the one on our right goes up a lot more than I have it even drawn. It's a little bit hard to see because it's obscured by the smoke, but I felt like I wanted to, you know, there's still enough information that you can make a rough guesstimate. Um, you know, looking too at some of the wrinkles on the side of his face, like they're there, but they're kind of subtle. So kind of getting the there but not there effect with that. Carving away, using that background to make thin up the face a little bit more, and kind of now here what I did is I added another layer, and I'm using a watercolor brush to create the smoke. If I was on a real drawing, I would probably be using a very watered down Pro White to do that. Uh, but this case, I wanted to sort of be able to show it with and without and allow myself a little bit of room around it. You could also do the smoke on a separate piece of paper, cut it out, and do it that way. Another thing I've done is I've done things on translucent paper, and you can get translucent vellum that will take watercolor washes. You have to be kind of careful. Sometimes you don't want it to flatten. You don't want it to get too bubbly, but you can also flatten it. So that's kind of a cool technique. Nothing can do Dafoe justice. He's so magnificent. But that was my best effort for today. I look forward to seeing you soon on Zoom. Have a great day.